Hey, everybody, good to be here. If you are jumping on live, if you could say hi in the chat. I'm Cindy Baker, and I'm a productivity coach for overwhelmed entrepreneurs and other creative professionals. And today I'm going to talk about procrastination. And I'm not going to put it off any longer. Okay, that was really bad. Do you consider yourself a procrastinator? Let me know in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, let me know whatever platform you're watching this on. Let me know if you consider yourself a procrastinator. Because we all have excuses, right? Everybody puts things off sometimes, but people who are real procrastinators chronically avoid difficult tasks, and they deliberately sometimes look for distractions in order to avoid doing whatever the task is. Now, people with ADHD particularly struggle with procrastination. And I work with a lot of people with ADHD. Self-control becomes difficult when we're, stimulated in our brain by whatever is immediately interesting. So habitual procrastinators make up about 20% of the population. Did you know that? So if this is something that you can beat, you can really give yourself a competitive edge. But 20% of the population, that I don't feel like it takes over, and it takes precedence over goals and responsibilities. And then we feel mad at ourselves or stressed over things piling up. Or maybe we don't enjoy doing a certain thing. Or maybe we put it off because it seems too challenging, or we just don't know how to get started. And so we just delay, or maybe it just seems like too much and we feel overwhelmed. And the thing is, procrastination involves a degree of self-deception. At some level, we might be aware of our actions and the consequences, but changing habits requires even greater effort than completing the task in front of us. Does that make sense? So how do we understand procrastination? Procrastinators are often perfectionists. It may be psychologically more acceptable to never tackle a job than to face the possibility of not doing it well or not doing it perfectly. Perfectionists are highly concerned about what others think of them, and they're so concerned a lot of times that they put their futures at risk to avoid judgment. Some procrastinators claim that they perform better under pressure. Maybe that's you. I hear that a lot. But while they may be able to convince themselves of that, research shows that that is generally not the case. This habit of last minute work to experience the rush of euphoria at seemingly having overcome the odds and pulling it all together at the last minute is not a healthy way to live. So why do we procrastinate? We're driven by a variety of thoughts and habits, but mainly we avoid doing things, or we put them off because we do not believe we're going to enjoy doing them. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And we want to avoid making ourselves unhappy, or we fear that we won't do it well enough. If we're, sometimes we're confused by the complexity of a task, like filling out your taxes, okay? Or we're overwhelmed and we don't know how to get started, or we're overly distracted or fatigued. The psychological roots of procrastination go deep. Psychologists have identified several different reasons for procrastination. One is kind of the drivers of procrastination. One is low self-confidence, also anxiety, a lack of structure, and then just simply an inability to motivate ourselves to complete unpleasant tasks. And research has also shown that procrastination is closely linked to rumination or becoming fixated on negative thoughts. That kind of looping thinking in our brains. So why are we so sure that we'll actually get to the thing later when we put it off? There's consequences, right? Consequences of procrastination. Putting something off may relieve pressure in the moment, but it can have long-term effects. It can cost you sleep. It can have emotional, physical, and practical costs. I mean, think about kids in college or high school. Students who routinely procrastinate tend to get lower grades. Workers produce lower quality work. It's just a fact. Habitual procrastinators struggle with things like insomnia, immune system problems, gastrointestinal disturbances. It's just a stressful way to live. And it jeopardizes both your personal and your professional relationships. It affects your health. I mean, think about it, putting off exercise, putting off checkups, dental appointments, failing to commit to healthy eating. That leads to poor consequences, higher risk of hypertension and cardiovascular disease, things like that. People who procrastinate are more likely to engage in self-blame and disengage in wellness advice. So there is also, there are a lot of studies done on this. There's a link between procrastination and depression, which I think is interesting. Procrastination, avoidance, and rumination are all symptoms of depression. And people with depression may struggle to plan ahead, and they lose confidence in their ability to follow through and adopt kind of this whatever thinking, or what's the point, so you want to beat procrastination. Now in my group coaching program, I have a lot of training on this, kind of go in depth with a lot of practical tips, but I'm going to give you just a few things that you might be able to try this week, because it is possible to overcome procrastination, but it does take effort. Habits are hard to break, so you want to adopt timelines that build in time for delay. If you know that you're a procrastinator, then don't fool yourself into thinking that you're going to not procrastinate. Just, you're going to do it. But you don't want to do it too much. You do want to change. So when you're trying to get something done, limit your access to social media. I tell my clients to put their phone in another room when they're trying to work. If your reason you're procrastinating is that you just don't like to do the thing, then make it more fun. Make it a game or some kind of personal challenge, keep score with yourself or compete with other people. Play some upbeat music. Give yourself a reward after you complete the task. All those things can make it a little more motivating. Now I hear, since I work with a lot of people with ADHD, I hear overwhelmed. And a lot of entrepreneurs, I hear this too, that they feel overwhelmed. And so they kind of freeze, and they just, get stuck in the analysis paralysis, So if that's happening and that's making you procrastinate, then divide and conquer. Break large tasks into separate, small, little bite-sized pieces, easy to achieve segments, and then list them, write them down, check off each segment as you do it. That really does help. I know you've probably heard that advice before, but if you're just having difficulty getting started, then create something to react to. Reactive tasks are easier to begin than those that you have to start. So work on the task with others, answer their questions or their emails to get you to get and keep you moving forward. If there's no deadline, create a deadline. Since you work better with deadlines, establish a deadline with your supervisor, or if you work for yourself, set up a deadline and give yourself plan a reward when you meet the deadline, and you don't get the reward if you don't, that type of thing. And some people just would say, well, I'm planning to do this thing, but I'm not really organized enough to start it. It's too many moving parts. Well, think through the task. Talk through the steps, step by step, with your supervisor. Break the task into doable segments. What's the smallest step that you could take where you would see success? Just start there. Do that. Create a list of resources and supplies that you're going to need to accomplish the task. Create a timeline for the task, and then do the very first thing. You can set email or text reminders for each segment and time block. You can use the Pomodoro method, but do the first step. Just take that first step. Now, some people will say, well, I'm motivated to do it, but I have no clue how to do it. I find the job too difficult. Well, ask yourself, why does it seem so hard? What do you need to get going? Do you need more training? Do you need more practice? Do you need help from other people? Then get the help, get the training, take those steps, make that the first thing you do. Whatever you do, keep moving forward. When people procrastinate, their present self today benefits by avoiding unpleasant work because they're not unhappy, right? But their future self pays the price in stress and negative consequences. So develop empathy for your future self, just like you would a close friend. Would you put your good friend in such a disadvantaged position? Probably not. Now pick one thing, small step, and do it. Do it right now. As soon as you stop listening to me talk, go do it. Choose one of the solutions that we talked about that you think might work for you and try it. I'm Cindy Baker, and I share tips about thriving and overcoming overwhelm for entrepreneurs and other creative professionals, especially if they have ADHD. In my company, CBC, Cindy Baker Coaching, I share these tips as a keynote speaker and right here. So for more like this video and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye.